Hey Reddit. I'm Margot. I'm 42. I live in Marin County, California. Yes, that Marin, land of organic cotton and competitive parenting, and I just staged a successful coup against the most smug, Chardonnay drunk clique to ever run a PTA. Let me back up. My daughter Lila started first grade at Foxglove Elementary last fall. I just moved back to my hometown after my divorce, rented a modest duplex with a view of someone else's pool, and was trying my best not to implode from the whiplash of suddenly being that mom. The one in off-brand sneakers surrounded by Lululemon Stepford wives with golden retrievers and husbands who own things like startups and summer houses. Still, I'm not shy, and I like helping, so I volunteered for the Halloween Harvest Festival, the biggest fundraiser of the year. Think pumpkin catapults, artisanal caramel apples, and a silent auction featuring things like 3 nights in Lake Tahoe and an infrared sauna session with celebrity nutritionist Jocelyn Pearl. That's where it all went to hell. See, I got tasked with managing the cash box at the bake sale booth. Simple stuff. 2 shifts, a spreadsheet, and strict instructions not to let any of the gluten-free cookies touch the same tray as the peanut-free brownies or you'd unleash suburban hell. When it was over, I returned the cash box with the envelope inside $2,108 in bills logged down to the last dollar. I even signed the form. I'm a former office manager, I know how to follow procedure. 3 days later, I get a call from Trina Harrington, the PTA president. Trina is the kind of woman who wears pressed jeans and Tory Burch flats to yoga. She greets you with fake air kisses that feel like butterfly stabs. She also once jokingly asked if I could Venmo her $6 after her son broke Lila's sunglasses at a birthday party. Hey Margot, she says, sugary and sharp. Sue, there's just a little hiccup with the fundraiser accounting. We're short $400. I blinked. From the bake sale? From the cash box you returned. The implication hung in the air like incense at a goop retreat. I asked for a breakdown. I offered my spreadsheet. She waved it off. Oh, don't worry. I'm sure it's just a miscommunication. But for transparency, we'll need to document this. The next day, an email goes out to the entire PTA mailing list. Subject line, bake sale discrepancy, a teachable moment about accountability. I stared at it in horror. It didn't name me, but everyone knew I was the new volunteer on that booth. Suddenly, I'm getting side eyes at drop-off. Lila came home asking why her teacher asked if mom was having money problems. I was furious. Not just because of the public shaming, but because I knew what this was. I wasn't part of their brunch coven. I didn't have a Tesla or a $90 water bottle for my kid. And Trina? She didn't want transparency. She wanted someone to blame, someone disposable. So I started digging. See, California PTAs are registered 501c3 nonprofits. That means they're legally required to maintain and share their financial records upon request. So I emailed the treasurer, Justine, the only member of the PTA board who ever looked genuinely exhausted and once whispered to me that she missed carbs. I said, hey, as someone implicated in this bake sale issue, I'd like to review the monthly ledger and expense receipts. Cue a 48-hour silence. Then a reply from Trina. We're in the process of restructuring how we handle transparency. Once we finalize the guidelines, you'll be the first to know. Translation, no. At that point, I did what any woman does when she's been backed into a corner. I got petty. And organized. I began talking to the invisible parents. You know the ones. The part-time librarian dad who always brings homemade muffins but gets ignored. The Salvadoran mom who barely speaks English but is at every school event with a hot tray of tamales. The divorced dad who volunteers for crossing guard duty and whose eyebrows nearly shot off his face when I asked if he ever got invited to board wine night. We formed a group chat, Reclaim the Foxglove PTA. I found out a lot of interesting things. Like how Trina's husband's company donated the silent auction paddle boards that just happened to be valued high enough to allow her to claim a charitable deduction. Or how the PTA's Amazon account regularly ordered supplies that were shipped to her home address. And the best part? At the next PTA meeting, elections were coming up. 6 weeks later, my plan was in motion. But Reddit. I had no idea how glorious it would feel to pull the rug out from under the queen bees of baked goods bullying.so. Remember how I mentioned the PTA elections were coming up? Let me paint you a picture of how those elections usually went at Foxglove Elementary. Trina Harrington, president since 2018. Melanie, her best friend, vice president, despite skipping half the meetings to focus on her candle-making Etsy store. Justine, Treasurer, possibly the only honest one, but always outvoted and overruled. Shauna, secretary, whose entire role seemed to be nodding enthusiastically and posting filtered selfies from PTA events with captions like #MomsWhoLead. They ran unopposed for years because no one else dared cross them. They controlled the information, the events, the budget, and they did it with that suffocating blend of fake nice smiles and veiled threats. But what they hadn't counted on was me. And Google Drive. And a coalition of pissed-off parents with nothing left to lose. Our little rebellion, which we jokingly dubbed the PTA Underground, met in the back of the library, in my living room, even once at the Panda Express across from the soccer fields. I made a spreadsheet of who was willing to run for what, and guess what? We had enough people. We had a candidate for every role, multilingual, multi-background, and 100% fed up. California law required PTA elections to be open to all members. You didn't need fancy credentials, just a child enrolled in the school and a pulse. I filed my candidacy paperwork for president with the district's PTA council before Trina even realized what was happening. Then we submitted the full slate of candidates. Boom. And now here's where it gets good. When Trina found out, I got a phone call. A real one. Like it was 2004. Margot, she said, I'm so glad you're getting involved. It's cute that you're running. Cute. I could practically hear her putting on lip gloss while she said it. I told her I was looking forward to the forum. Oh, we don't really do those, she laughed. Usually we just confirm the nominations and vote by acclamation. So much more efficient. I told her, that's the old way. I'm bringing the new. Cue silence. Then the retaliation started. Suddenly, my volunteer shift for the book fair was reassigned. My name disappeared from the parent portal. One of Trina's minions whispered loudly in the hallway that I was stirring up drama because I couldn't handle a little math error. A few moms unfriended me on Facebook and posted passive-aggressive memes about toxic people. But what they didn't know was that I'd already gotten in with the teachers. Turns out they weren't wild about the PTA either. The teachers' lounge was filled with stories about missing funds, events that demanded teacher participation without consultation, and one incident where Trina, accidentally, promised each teacher a $100 Amazon gift card from funds that didn't exist. One teacher slipped me a printed budget from last year. I analyzed it line by line. Guess what? The miscellaneous reimbursements category, $3,200. That's $3,200 of nobody knows what. I brought this to Justine, the treasurer, over iced tea at her kitchen table while her toddler napped in the next room. She looked exhausted. I tried to flag it last year, she said. They told me I wasn't being a team player. That it would all even out later. You know what doesn't even out? Tax fraud. Because guess who's legally responsible for nonprofit transparency? The treasurer. The one they kept in the dark. She joined our slate the next day. Said she'd be our candidate for vice president. I could have cried. We held community info nights at the park in someone's garage on Zoom. We spoke Spanish, Tagalog, and plain English. We distributed flyers, approved ones, per district rules, and I even bought $45 worth of Costco cookies for our parents for PTA reform night. I saw Trina watching from her Range Rover in the parking lot, sunglasses on, phone in hand. Probably texting Melanie, probably saying something like, "These weirdos actually brought folding chairs." Then came the day she finally tried to pull rank. She sent an email to the school principal expressing concern that I was disrupting school harmony and might be unfit to serve in a leadership role given past questions about integrity. She CC'd the superintendent. Big mistake. Because I had been keeping receipts. Literal ones. And email printouts. And a notarized letter from my bank about the exact deposit I made after the bake sale. Plus the email she sent about the cash discrepancy. I printed that too. And the spreadsheet log she ignored. I attached them all in a reply-all email to her entire thread. Subject line, clarifying timeline and documentation, please see attached. The silence after that email was chef's kiss. At the candidate forum, I wore a navy blazer, Lila's favorite unicorn pin on the lapel. Trina showed up in a cream sweater set in fake pearls radiating care and energy. I opened with, "We all care about our kids. And we all deserve to be part of the conversation, not just the ones with time, money, or key to the supply closet." Trina opened with, "Leadership is hard. Not everyone can handle it." The room shifted. And when it came time for the vote, record turnout. Nearly double last year's. Guess who got elected? Every single member of our slate. We ousted them clean. Trina's face? Priceless. She clapped barely. Shauna was crying in the parking lot. Melanie ghosted before the results were announced. Now I sit in the PTA president chair, not a throne, just a squeaky middle school office chair, and we run things fairly. We post our budget online. We vote on decisions with full minutes. We translated everything into Spanish and Mandarin. Oh, and we brought back the school library hours that Trina slashed to fund her PTA retreat. And the best part? That bake sale? We raised $3,400 this year. Not a dollar missing. Next up, we're auditing the last 3 years of records. And guess who I found on LinkedIn with nonprofit consultant listed on her bio? Yeah, more on that soon. So if you thought dethroning Trina and her champagne moms was the climax, buckle up. Because what came after the election? That's when the revenge really started to marinate. We were still riding the high of victory when Justine, the once beleaguered treasurer, now vice president and full-time truth grenade, started combing through the previous 3 years of PTA financial reports. We noticed a pattern. First, there were reimbursements made to something called Educational Synergy Solutions, LLC. That name rang zero bells. It wasn't a vendor anyone at the school remembered. Not the teachers. Not the principal. Not even old Marjorie, the 73-year-old lunch lady who remembers every PTA order since Bush was president. But then I Googled it. Boom. Educational Synergy Solutions was a business listed under Trina Harrington's name. Mailing address? Her husband's tech startup in Sausalito. Let me say that again. She created a shell company in her own name and used it to invoice the PTA for thousands under consulting fees. Consulting for what, you ask? Apparently for strategic event planning, community engagement services, and nonprofit leadership coaching. Let me translate that. For planning bake sales and telling people where to stand during trunk or treat. In total, $9,200 over 2 years. We pulled the invoices submitted by Trina H. using a Gmail address that ended in at Foxglove PT Events. The domain didn't exist. It was just a name. I should have been shocked. But honestly, by now, I was impressed. She'd turned the PTA into a side hustle. I sat down with the principal, Mr. Drexler, a mild man in his 50s who always wears fleece vests and once told me he doesn't get involved in parent politics. Well, guess what, Drex? It's time. I showed him the documents. His mouth fell open. This is a serious breach, he muttered, scrolling through PDFs on my iPad. We report to the district. I mean, this is embezzlement, isn't it? Bingo. Under California law, if you run a nonprofit, like a school PTA, and knowingly misrepresent services or redirect funds for personal gain, that's not just unethical, it's potentially a felony. So we filed a formal complaint with the district. Then we submitted a 990, an audit request to the state PTA board. Then for fun, I looked up the IRS Form 13909, the one used to report tax-exempt organizations suspected of fraud. We sent that too. Now the district moves slowly. Bureaucracy always does. But news travels fast in a town like ours. The day after we submitted the paperwork, Trina's Range Rover wasn't in the school parking lot. The day after that, Melanie removed PTA vice president from her LinkedIn. Shauna posted a story to Instagram with the text, "Be careful who you trust. Some people are snakes in soccer mom clothing." I laughed so hard I snorted into my chai. Now here's the delicious irony. Our new PTA was thriving. We hosted a cultural night that wasn't just pizza and vaguely Asian noodles. Parents brought dishes from 27 countries. We had halal, we had vegan posal, we had a dance circle that went off. We launched a community garden that the second graders named Vegiatopia. We got the school nurse funding for an actual stock supply closet. You'd be horrified how often she used her own paycheck. And we found out that the reason the library hours got cut? So Trina could allocate $1,200 for PTA president enrichment to attend a wellness retreat in Sedona. She listed it as mental health programming. That's rich coming from a woman who told me I had unresolved energy the day after she tried to humiliate me in front of 40 parents. But wait, it gets better. Last week I got a call. It was the IRS fraud referral unit. The woman's voice was calm, precise, and entirely too clinical for the bomb she dropped. We've begun a preliminary inquiry into the financial structure of Educational Synergy Solutions. We may need you to confirm some documentation. Can we verify that none of these services were rendered on school property? I practically sang absolutely. I hung up, turned to Justine and said, "So, what's our budget for printing t-shirts?" Because friends, if Trina ends up being the first person in Marin County indicted for PTA fraud, I want a shirt that says, "I survived the Foxglove uprising and all I got was accountability." We're planning a town hall meeting next month to explain it all to the community. But I'm thinking of bringing a projector and a popcorn machine. Because this isn't just governance. This is entertainment. If you've ever wondered what happens when a suburban PTA president with a yoga Pilates hybrid side hustle gets a lawyer, let me introduce you to phase 2 of Trina's meltdown. It started with a cease and desist letter, delivered to my house, on pastel stationery scented like vanilla and passive aggression. It wasn't even from a real law firm, just a solo family counsel named Garrett W. Brimsby III, who probably specialized in estate planning for labradoodles and civil mediation between wine moms. The letter accused me of defamation of character, interfering with a lawful business, inciting a hostile takeover of a volunteer organization. I framed it right next to my daughter's first-grade handprint turkey and my notarized IRS complaint form. Because you know what it didn't include? A denial. Not once did Trina or her discount lawyer actually refute the charges. She didn't say, "I didn't take money." She didn't say, "I didn't create a fake consulting firm." She just said I was being mean about it. But I know the rules. See, in California, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. So I called my friend Lena, who works in civil litigation in San Francisco and whose hobby is dismantling the wealthy with spreadsheets. She read the letter and cackled. She sent this herself, didn't she? This is a word template with glitter on it. Lena drafted a reply that can only be described as eloquent evisceration. It included a full list of Trina's questionable transactions, a request for her LLC's tax returns, and a gentle reminder that California's Business and Professions Code has very strong feelings about using nonprofit funds to pay oneself without a signed services contract. We CC'd the school district's legal department. And then we got back to work. See, what I haven't told you is that our new PTA office is in what used to be the lost and found closet. We kept the bins, but added folding tables, a whiteboard, and one of those printer/scanner combos that sounds like it's chewing tinfoil. We called it the audit bunker. Every Tuesday night, after bedtime, a ragtag board of burned out but brilliant parents met there with laptops, pizza, and vengeance. We digitized 3 years of receipts. We color-coded expense categories. We tracked every invoice that smelled fishier than the Cantuna surprise from the school cafeteria. Here are just a few gems we uncovered. A $327 team-building spa day for key PTA stakeholders, held on a weekday, during school hours, attended only by Trina and Melanie. A $684 line item for security equipment that turned out to be a Ring camera on Trina's front porch. A recurring monthly charge of $19.99 for a professional Zoom account that was never used for school events, but was the hosting platform for her Momspiration Mondays webinars. Yes, I logged into one. She told a group of women to align their chakras with their calendar app. Each new discovery felt like winning the pettiest scavenger hunt in the world. And the teachers? They were watching all of this like it was an HBO limited series. One even brought us muffins with a post-it that said, "Team Margot for life." But then it escalated. Because Trina didn't just lawyer up. She started making calls. To the district. To the PTA state board. To anyone who would listen. Her narrative? That we were launching a vindictive witch hunt, and that new leadership lacked the experience to handle the complexities of school governance. Which is hilarious coming from the woman who once ordered 500 glow sticks for a glow gala that got canceled due to weather. But still, it rattled us. We were volunteers. We didn't want to end up in court. Or in a scandal. Or on one of those awful YouTube Karen Gets Owned compilations. So we took a breath, took a vote, and decided to go full sunlight. We posted everything. Every financial report. Every receipt. Every budget discrepancy. We published it all on a PTA transparency site we built using free Squarespace templates and zero chill. We called it Foxglove Forward. Parents could browse line items like it was online shopping. They loved it. One even commented, "Finally, a place where I can find out why my child's classroom has no crayons while Trina had $62 in PTA-approved cocktails at the fall gala." The tipping point? A kindergarten dad who turned out to be a retired forensic accountant offered to help. He audited the whole mess, wrote a 5-page summary, and signed it like a royal decree. In my professional opinion, the prior PTA board demonstrated a repeated pattern of fiduciary mismanagement, bordering on criminal negligence. We posted that too. 2 days later, Trina removed her Instagram account. 3 days after that, Melanie stepped down from the school's fundraising committee. And a week later, a district email went out announcing a third-party financial review of all PTAs under its jurisdiction. I got a dozen texts that night. My favorite was from Justine. She picked the wrong Target brand blazer to mess with. We weren't done. But we weren't scared anymore either. We thought we were in the clear. The school district had launched their investigation. Our transparency site, Foxglove Forward, was gaining traction like it was the new neighborhood gossip blog. Parents were finally seeing where their jogathon donations went. Spoiler, not toward new math books. But then came the mediation email. From the state PTA. Subject line, Restoring Harmony, a conflict resolution meeting between former and current PTA leadership. I read it twice and laughed so hard I knocked over a cup of lukewarm coffee onto a stack of receipts, which, frankly, only made them more dramatic. Apparently, Trina had filed a formal complaint. Said we were creating a hostile volunteer environment and undermining the community trust in PTA leadership. I replied, "We didn't undermine the community. We published the proof of who did. Happy to attend. Please advise if there's a projector." They scheduled the meeting in the Foxglove multipurpose room. On a Tuesday night. With folding chairs and Costco water bottles like we were in traffic court. I arrived early wearing jeans, my Foxglove Forward shirt, and a cardigan that said, "California casual but will subpoena you." I had my flash drive with the 45-page audit, a binder of backup documents, and a borrowed laser pointer from the science teacher who whispered, "Go get her, Hamilton," as I passed her classroom. Trina showed up 10 minutes late, wearing all white like she was channeling Gwyneth Paltrow in court. Melanie trailed behind, clutching a file folder like it contained state secrets. Shauna didn't come. According to her Instagram, she was detoxing from negativity with a silent retreat and blue spirulina. The mediation was run by a woman named Sheila from the state PTA, calm, professional, and clearly not paid enough for this nonsense. She opened with, "Let's try to find a solution we can all agree on." Trina jumped in first. "This has been very hurtful. I feel attacked. Everything I did was to support the children. And now I'm being treated like some kind of embezzler." She even had the audacity to tear up. I sat quietly, clicked my flash drive into the school's ancient laptop, and pulled up the presentation. Slide 1, Financial Irregularities of the Foxglove PTA, 2019 to 2023. Then I handed Sheila a copy of the forensic accountant's report. Remember him? Todd. Retired. Lives to Destroy Tax Fraud. Sheila read. And blinked. A lot. Trina cleared her throat. "I don't understand what this is. These weren't even real invoices. Would you like to see the bank statement that matches every transaction?" I asked. Click. Slide 7, a chart of every check to Educational Synergy Solutions, LLC. Melanie finally broke. Trina said it was standard practice. She said you needed a consulting vendor to process certain tax forms. Did you read any of those forms? I asked her. Because they were templates she downloaded from a coaching blog and changed the font on. Sheila took a deep breath and gently closed her folder. "I'm going to pause this meeting." She stood up and stepped into the hallway with her phone. I imagine she called someone at the state office and whispered, "We've got another Trina." 20 minutes later, the meeting resumed. Sheila sat down slowly like she'd just gotten off a tilt-a-whirl. Given the information presented, she said carefully, the state PTA will be initiating a formal review of the prior administration's financial practices. In the meantime, we recommend the former board members refrain from further PTA-related communications until the matter is resolved. Translation, you're benched, Blondie. Trina said nothing. Just sat there, hands folded like she was on a pottery wheel of denial. Melanie whispered, "Are we going to be sued?" I smiled, handed her a copy of the California Nonprofit Integrity Act, and said, "You might want to read page 12. After they left, Sheila turned to me and said, "You know, I've been doing this 14 years. That was the most thorough documentation I've ever seen from a parent volunteer." I shrugged. I'm just a mom with a label maker and rage issues. As we packed up the chairs, Justine leaned in and said, "Do you realize you just outmaneuvered an entire corrupt PTA regime and made forensic accounting sexy?" I said, "If I ever write a memoir, that's the subtitle." Outside, the air was cool. The auditorium lights clicked off behind me. A few parents were waiting by the curb, holding PTA flyers we'd printed that said, "Every dollar counts. Let's count every dollar." One mom said, "I heard she might be disqualified from her HOA board too." I smiled. Because this wasn't just a revenge story anymore. It was a revolution. Yep. 2 weeks after the state PTA confirmed their formal review, she pulled her kid out of Foxglove Elementary and moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, where, according to her Instagram, she is rebuilding her brand and offering mentorship to female entrepreneurs through trauma-informed wellness. Which I guess is influencer speak for "no one will let me near a school checkbook anymore." But before she left? Oh, I sent her off with a gift bag. Literally. Wrapped in tissue paper and glitter ribbon, hand-delivered to her door by her very confused 13-year-old son. Inside, a copy of our final audit, annotated in red. A Foxglove PTA volunteer t-shirt, from before she made them cost $28 apiece. And a novelty mug that read, "I'm not a regular mom, I'm a financial liability." No note. Just vibes. After she left, we got the results of the state investigation. Guess what? Every single accusation was confirmed. She had paid herself more than $11,000 over 3 years through her fake LLC. She'd purchased home goods on the PTA card and labeled them event decor. She'd redirected donation incentives meant for teachers to her own friends' businesses for raffle items. The consequences? No prison time, unfortunately. But she was permanently barred from PTA service statewide. Referred to the Franchise Tax Board for potential civil fraud. Required to pay back $7,300 or face a civil lien. The school district issued a statement. Dry. Diplomatic. Full of moving forward language. But we didn't let it end there. We hosted a transparency barbecue on the school lawn. Families came. Teachers came. Even the principal brought veggie burgers and awkward gratitude. We projected the new budget onto a giant screen, line by line. Applause broke out when Justine showed how we'd cut admin costs by 60% and reallocated funds toward classroom libraries. We gave shout-outs to every parent volunteer. In 3 languages. We printed tote bags that said, "Ask me what the PTA spends," and sold out in 10 minutes. But you know what the real win was? At the next board meeting, a soft-spoken dad, Luis, a warehouse foreman who'd always hovered near the back, raised his hand and said, "Can I run for secretary next year?" He'd never spoken at a meeting before. We said hell yes. The next week, one of the newer moms brought coffee for the audit crew. She whispered, "My old school PTA didn't even let me join a committee. You guys let me lead one." We did. She organized a reading day that made half the staff cry from happiness. That's when I realized, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about making space. About reminding people, especially the quiet ones, that they deserve a seat at the table. Even if they bring tamales instead of kale chips. Even if they can't Venmo $50 for Spirit Week. Even if they didn't know what a 501c3 was until this year. We closed the school year with the biggest fundraiser in Foxglove history. $12,842 raised. 0 shady invoices. 1,000% more trust. As for me, I'm still PTA president. For now. But I'm training my replacement. Because real leadership means sharing the mic, not clutching it like a wine glass with a death grip. Lila's in 2nd grade now. She told me the other day, "Mom, you're like the boss of the moms, but in a nice way." That's good enough for me. And Trina? Well, she posted a story last week from a Scottsdale branding brunch she hosted in a Marriott conference room. The caption? Teaching women to reclaim their power. I couldn't help myself. I sent her one more package. Inside, a single sheet of printer paper. One sentence centered. Power isn't what you steal. It's what people trust you to use. No signature. Because she knows exactly who it's from.